Okay, so in this video we're going to take this 2.5 page layout of some news articles about 2018 and we're going to turn it into a single page document. So to start with, you can see I've got lots of different formats here, which is very typical of copying stuff from the internet. So we're going to remove all that formatting to start with. So this first paragraph looks okay in terms of these paragraph spacing and everything, so I'm just going to click on that. It doesn't matter, just click or highlight an area of it, and on the home ribbon I'm going to choose the format painter, and I'm going to paint everything by clicking and dragging everything in the document with that same format. Now that gets rid of all the paragraph changes of space, but what it doesn't always do is change the fonts accordingly. So now that I've done that, I'm going to just make sure I've got everything selected again, Control A to select all. I'm going to change my font to size 10 because we've got to fit this on a single page after all, and I'm going to make sure that it's Calibri font. Now when we look down, hopefully that looks reasonable, although this paragraph spacing seems to have changed a bit there. So again, if you find a bit that you like, click on it, Format Painter, and try again to make it the same. Okay, because sometimes it doesn't work first time. If you need to click on one area, that's fine, but if you want to click on multiple areas, you can double click. So if I like this, double click, and any area that I haven't clicked I can just highlight again and do. That's better, it's worked better this time. Just in case that anything at the top hasn't quite worked, click, drag. Okay, that's better. And now I can turn that off by clicking. So first thing we're going to do is try and make ourselves a little bit more space on the page by adjusting the margins. As you can see, we've currently got just over 2 pages now. Let's zoom back in. So let's adjust the margins to be a centimetre all around to start with. So go to Layout, Margins, right down the bottom to Custom Margins, and I'm going to make sure it's 1 centimetre on the top, 1 centimetre on the bottom. So you can just type that in if you want. You can use the scroll arrows, or you can just wipe it out completely and type it in again if you want. So 1 centimetre all round, say OK to that. So now that's given us a bit more space. If we zoom out, we're now fitting on 2 pages. OK. Next, let's think about, before we do anything else, we've got headings and subheadings the same size as the main text. So I'm just going to increase the main heading to be like that, and each month I'm going to increase to font size 12 and make it bold. And I'm going to use the Format Painter. If I click once and then drag, it applies that format to another one, but then doesn't do it to anywhere else. So I'm going to copy this format by double clicking, and now when I drag, you see that the Format Painter is still on, so I can select all of the months and put them in that same format. So a really good way to apply a consistent format throughout a document. I'm going to miss September, I'll come back to that later. October, November and December. Okay, now take that off. Okay, so we've got our formatting like that. Let's have a look at our document. Pretty good. So let's now go to columns. It's because we've got lots of space here. We're going to use some wrapping of text around pictures and resizing of pictures, but first of all, to make this readable when you're using a small font size, you need to use columns so that you don't get too many words per line. So I'm going to select all, Control A, go to Layout, Columns, 2 columns. So again, you can see I've saved an awful lot of space, and now I'm only on 1 and a bit pages. Okay, so last thing I think I need to do is to apply text wrapping to my pictures. But if you look at the column, it's all jiggity-jaggedy here. We're going to make it look a bit more like a newspaper by going Control A to select all, and on our alignments we're going to align it as justified. So justify the text. So now you can see it's straight down both sides, and Word achieves that by just spreading the text out a little bit. Sometimes it works, usually it works, sometimes it doesn't. For instance, if you look here, this bit about the Novichok incident at Salisbury, you can see it hasn't spaced it out very well, hasn't done a very good job there, but we'll overcome that. So now let's do the individual pictures and do the text wrapping on there. So I'm going to apply a square wrapping to each one. Now this one doesn't need to be very big. It was in February, so I'm placing it next to the text of February. I could take up the space between the column a little bit. I could make this smaller. I could even crop the picture if I wanted to, but they're options for later. Let's just go with something like that. Text wrapping square on there. Now I might try and have one on the right, one on the left, and see how that works. And as you can see, it hasn't justified the text very well like that, but I'm moving it around just to see what we can achieve. It needs to be in March. Something like that will do for the moment. I'll come back to that if I need to. Okay, let's go for that. And again on this one, in April, World Cup in June. Again, I could crop the edges off this if I need to later, but let's go square. Let's go onto that side. It's taken up too much space, it's pushing July over, so I'm just going to make that a bit smaller. There we go. And then we've got a big space after July, which is a bit weird. That shouldn't be there. You can see you've got paragraph spacing on the bottom when you highlight it. So I'm just going to highlight May again, Format Painter, and do that to July. That's it, it's got rid of it. Okay, not bad. Right, let's reduce this image of Trump as a balloon and go to square. Now I believe the bit about Trump, let's move it down a bit, was down in here in July. There we go, protest erupting over Trump's visit. Let's put that there. Got a bit of space underneath, so I might be able to get a bit more of this text down there in a minute, but we'll check on that. And finally, the protests in Paris. Ooh, almost fitting on a page, that's great. So, square, and whereabouts does it say about civil unrest? There we go. If I put that there, it seems to fit on a single page. If I need to, let's just say it took up a tiny bit too much space. What I could do is adjust the spacing between the columns. So if I say now Control A to select all, Control A to select all, go to the layout, and this time go to more columns, I can adjust my spacing to maybe 1 centimetre to be consistent with the margins as well. And now it easily fits on that page. I can now think about adjusting the pictures, making them a bit bigger, just to make them a bit more visible, to get the layout I want. And possibly with this one you might want to do some cropping, but we're still fitting on a page, we're getting bigger pictures in there, and effectively, let's have a look at that. So we've got a page at the bottom. If I just put my cursor at the bottom, because I've hopefully got a bit of space, and press backspace, that removes that. Put my full stop, if there's not one there already, at the end, and there we have our document presented beautifully on a single side of A4 paper.